What's going on?
What's happening? What's
Man,
happening?
my brother, Mr. Stephen.
Man, I'm just grateful to be here, brother.
And welcome to another episode of Respect the Shooter. And why don't you tell the people who the pleasure we got speaking with today?
It's you say my name is Stephen Metoyer, and but everyone knows me as Thesilentshooter. It's my photography name. I also do a little bit of chefing and philanthropy as well. So
A little
bit of everything.
A little bit, not just a little bit. Okay, so why the silent shooter?
Well, the name came. I was actually doing behind the scenes photography for a makeup artist.
Okay.
And so, just trying to fit in where I could fit in. And she said, just come with me to the set and just do some pictures for me. And I was, lucky my camera goes into quiet mode so you can't hear the shutter. And I was on the other side of the room behind the piano, and she was doing her makeup, and I just was taking shots, and the model turned and looked. She goes, "You really are the silent shooter, aren't you?" And right in that moment, I went on Instagram and looked up and changed my name because I just had my regular name, Stephen.
Right.
And I changed it right then, and it all lowercase across. The Silent Shooter, no caps or nothing next. It was green lights. And that was it. That's how that started. Yeah.
Righteous. Okay, so let's go before that. Let's start at the beginning. Where you from? Where you grew up?
Well, I'm one of the rare ones. I was actually born and raised here in LA.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
That's, growing up in LA, I was a teenager in the 90s. If you get to look at the 90s recaps that they have right now, LA was hot. We had everything from, the riots to, OJ. We just, it was LA. Cruz and Crenshaw getting jacked up by the LAPD, and everything that comes with LA, we grew up, we lived it. But I'm very fortunate to have, my parents, good parents that was, married. My parents got divorced when I was about 10. So I basically was with my mom here in LA, and, but I didn't get involved in all of the crazy because I played basketball. And some of the guys in the neighborhood was like, "You ain't gonna be that guy going down this road, so you gonna go down this road instead." So they really protected me from the street life and made sure that I stayed focused and went to school and, kind of kept me in a good direction. So.
Okay, so at what point is art and photography as a medium interjected into this path?
It's really interesting because, I have always loved photography, but I never pursued it. And then one day I wanted to stop a bird, and I was out at the beach. I loved watching the sunset in Venice. I just wanted to stop a bird. So I took out my cell phone. I've been coming weeks after week trying to get it. And one time it flew up off of the thing and went across, and I caught it perfect. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And I just fell in love with photography that way. And then I was doing some homeless activism work here in LA.
Which you do all over the country.
Well, I do all over the country now as well. I was at one of the demonstrations, and I was taking pictures with my phone, and then I thought to myself, I said, man, I need to get a better camera for this. And so I was at Best Buy just messing around one day, and my daughter was with me, and I was looking at the camera, and I was like, oh, should I get it? Should I not get it? And she looked at me, and she was like, when's the last time you did something for you? And that was the moment. And I was like, okay, so I got it, and then it started from there. I just, picked it up and went and started shooting everything. I think I was at a 4th of July barbecue. It was just playing around with it, messing around with it. And then, I got very fortunate because of doing the homeless activism. My first assignment as a photographer was actually the young Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Right.
And she had just won her primary in New York and came to LA to tour our homeless situation before she was even elected as a U.S. Congresswoman. And so I got to walk and do photography for them because I was with the activism group that was bringing her here to LA. So that was kind of my first kind of cool little assignment, and it just kind of started, you know, growing from there, you know.
So, what point did the private chefing come in?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is photography actually led to the private chef.
Okay.
And so I have a client by the name of Gatsby Randolph, and I actually did behind-the-scenes photography and videography for his movie. And
we're gonna talk about that in a second too.
And what happened was I was going to his house to go through photographs with him for the press, and he called me and said, "Hey man, pick up something from the store." And I never gone shopping for someone else, and so I just shopped for what I would normally get for somebody or to cook for them. And then when I got to the house, I started, you know, prepping stuff. He was busy, and he had a meeting, and he was on the phone call. And I was like, "Okay, don't worry about it. I got it." And he was like, "You gonna chef? You gonna cook it up?" I said, "Yeah, man, I got it. I've been in restaurant industry 20 plus years, man. I think I got this handled. No worries." And put out a spread, and he took one bite of the chicken that I made, and he was like, "Man, put your camera down, bro. You the chef now." And that's how it started. He hired me for a week to do his meetings in Bel Air, and he filled the fridge, and I just made, someone said, "Oh, I want pasta." I'd make pasta that I know. And I want, you know, fish. I'd make fish that I know. And so it was just really, you know, allowing me to create exactly whatever I wanted. And, you know, his appreciation for my level of cooking, it just kind of grew from there. And started getting clients that way. And, you know, I did Kazembe. Kazembe is Zendeja's father. I did his big charity event that he did. He was my first celebrity hire in that realm. And so I was just very grateful, and just kind of went from one to the next, and just very quietly they pass you around, pass your information around. And so I had a chance to chef for some pretty cool people.
Right, once you get your foot in the door, kind of everything is open up to you. It's like, oh, you take pictures too? Like,
yeah. Okay. It's funny, I'll be at a place chefing, and someone will walk in and be like, "Shooter, what are you doing here?" So, "Oh, I also chef." It's, what? How does that happen? You know, and that's people I've taken pictures of on the red carpet. And they walk in and say, "But how are you there and you're here?" So, you know.
Yeah, we leave one event and go to the next.
Right, we're in LA. You got to do a lot of things, you know. So yeah.
So, what do you like to shoot the most?
You know, I really love people, and as much as I enjoy, you know, nature and sunsets and, you know, capturing birds, which is what I really started with. I love being on the set and just letting people be who they are, and me just capturing them in their moments. And so, you know, the Silent Shooter, kind of how it came about was that. It's just very quietly capturing people being themselves, and allowing them to just fully be who they are. And you know, I've gone to celebrity events with clients, and, you know, I don't hang right up in people's face every time they're ready to take a picture, just right in front of them. I'm kind of stepped back, and, you know, they're mingling and they're hugging their friends. And, you know, one of my great photos that I love is she's a casting guru, Aaliyah Cruz, and she's just wonderful. But she invited me to come shoot some photography for her. It was a party that they were having, and I'll never forget watching one of her friends walk in from across the room and saw her, and her friend didn't see her. And I literally tracked her moment all the way up to where her friend tapped her, turned around, the expression, you capture all of that. And those are moments you you can't write them. You have to be in the right place and
Right.
be able to get those moments.
Okay, so let's stop right there for a moment. Let's talk about photographer etiquette at social events towards clients and photographer etiquette towards other photographers in those type of environments.
You know, I'm one to always be on the polite side. And so, you know, for me, it's funny because when you arrive to an event and you have a client and you're not shooting anyone else, there's a different reaction because people are waiting for you to jump in the pit, or they're waiting for you to stop and take pictures of them also. And it's like, I'm with my client. My client wants to take a picture with you, then yes. But I'm not here to just take pictures of the whole event. And so my etiquette with other photographers is quite interesting because a lot of the time I'm letting them just do what they need to do because they're there for the event. And for me, I'm just kind of waiting to see what my client's going to do. And then I capture their moments. And so it's an interesting balance between the two. I think my least favorite place is to be in the pit with all of the photographers on the red carpet. I prefer to skip the red carpet personally.
Yeah, because they're usually loud
Yeah,
and rude.
it's loud and rude and elbowing and everybody's trying to get things. It's like that. I don't really need that shot. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to capture my client in a moment that later on you'll be like, where did that come from?
And normally, even though you might take 300 or 400 pictures that night,
Right.
they just want one.
They just want that one, you know, and I'll take a bunch of them and then I'll go through and I'll pick out that moment, those golden moments with people, and they're just, you know, very genuine. And that's what I love about it. So being the etiquette is, I respect what they do, but that's just not my forte, you know.
What are you interested in as far as, I guess a better question would be, what do you think the next level for you in photography is?
You know, I'd love to be on movie sets more. And so as, you know, we continue to grow, just being that one person that comes on the set and gets to capture everything that you don't see until later, or you get to see those iconic photos like with, you know, Al Pacino behind the camera directing. Those are photos that I would love to be able to capture, you know, being able to have those moments where, you know, I think of some of the film like a young Spike Lee and getting to have those photographs of that young Spike Lee, like who's the next young Spike Lee? I want to be on his set and capturing those photos so when the world gets to find out who he is, where'd those photos come from? I was on the set with that guy before everyone get to find out who he was.
Right, righteous. But I mean, you know, we could just start right there with Mr. Gatsby Randolph.
Yes.
You know, let's talk about being nominated for an Oscar, man. Come on.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was a pretty cool, you know, this interesting story is because it was shot in documentary, as a documentary, which is his story of coming to Hollywood. We got entered into the best documentary category for an Oscar. And so, I mean, I didn't know, obviously, getting involved with Gatsby and doing the behind-the-scenes photography and videography that it was going to lead to something like that. But I don't think any of us knew that. But just being able to see his story and capture it live, I mean, if people understood what guerrilla photography and videography is, that was myself and paper film. Doing this movie with Gatsby Randolph, because I don't know if you've ever been to Vanity Fair Oscar party before, but unless you have the most specific credentials, you can't bring your camera in.
Correct.
And so being in which I didn't quite have the specific credentials, but because we were with him and in the interesting story, my first Vanity Fair Oscar party, that I went with Gatsby Randolph I almost got kicked out because I'm on the red carpet and there's this singer, Belona from Russia.
Yeah.
And so I was with her as we were supposed to walk the red carpet. And she goes, "Where's the photographer? Pull your camera out. I need you to get this." And I'm like, "Well, I can't have my camera out here. You know, I'm not authorized, you know." She said, "You're not going to want to miss this." And she stepped out into the carpet. I pulled my camera out, man, set up, got ready. And she stepped out into the circle. And she turned and she went to look at them. And she looked past all the cameras and looked right at me. And I just lit her up, boom, boom, boom. And she moved to the next one, lit her up, boom, boom, boom. And it was crazy. So like, you could hear from the pit, she has her own photographer. Like everyone's like tripping. And so like, I'm going down the red carpet with her like in front of them. Then I'm like, I'm ducking down because I'm thinking about everybody else. I'm like, well, I don't want to ruin their shot. So I run behind, run all the way around, and then I capture her coming up the crowd. And like my favorite shot was like all of the photographers behind, and then her kind of like dancing away from the carpet. It's like one of my favorite shots that I've taken of her, but of anyone really.
Right place, right time.
As soon as I walk in the thing, man, the security, they just jack me up. They like, but fortunately, a couple of the guys that were part of our group kind of came in and was like, no, he's our photographer, blah, blah, blah. Well, he can't have this in here. He's got to go and this and that. And then this one little guy comes out of nowhere and he's like, can't we just check his camera like we're checking everyone else's coats? And I'll give him a tag and I'll run it over there and he'll be right back. Everything will be fine. And the supervisor looked and they looked at me and they looked at everybody else and he was so mad. But then the guy was right. They checked my camera in and I went in and next thing you know, all the great photos I got with, Elton John and Kobe Bryant and all of those photos we got that night were all on my phone, actually.
Right.
Shout out to Samsung Galaxy. Whoo, that photo. The camera's a beast on there. So let you know.
That was a real big night because I was watching it live on your phone.
I'm telling you.
It was a sight to see.
It was incredible.
But I mean, you mentioned one thing, like you said, guerrilla shooting.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times we pull up to places, we may not have the credentials, but if you show up in the right uniform with the right equipment, sometimes luck will be on your side.
It sure can, And you got to play the part.
Right.
If you look like you're supposed to be there, you're supposed to be there. It's simple. And, a lot of times people don't question that, especially when you're friendly, you don't talk too much. Don't do a whole bunch of, I'm this person, I'm that person. You just come. It's part of the situation, And so we really, we've got some amazing footage from, Vanity Fair to, being at the Grammys to, some of the exclusive parties that we've been at, and it's just being in those moments have really taught me to be humble, because they're people just like everyone else, and when you get to see them interact with each other, you get to have those moments. You just capture them, and people are like, "Who are you?" "Oh, my client is right here."
Right.
So.
It's an amazing thing to just be invited sometimes.
Right.
And then when you get to see people when they're not in superstar mode, because there are no cameras around and there's no people that are trying to get them to put it in the tabloids and
right.
All that different type of stuff. You notice like they almost shed their outer skin,
right.
And it's like, oh, they're just like us.
Right. They do. Yeah. We were at a Halloween party, and that was one of the moments that I got to capture with Cindy Crawford, and her just being, just free in her moment, and talking to Gatsby and having this. They were having this really interesting conversation, but being able to just capture it for for him, and then, but not in that flashy kind of way where I have a flash on and I'm doing this. It's just, you know, they quick moment, boom, boom, and that was it. And then being able to have those little intimate conversations with them is always nice too, because you get to find out that they're just like everybody else. It's just the world knows who they are, as opposed to, you know, like most of us, you know, the world doesn't know who we are. So.
Do you think sometimes that people that know you kind of denigrate your art because they say, well, you're a chef and a photographer, which one are you? You know, they try to put you in a box.
You know, I've had people ask me that before, like, what are you? Like, what do you like more to do? And I just love the fact that I have the ability to do both. And, you know, I've always been in the kitchen since I was a little kid, learning how to fry chicken from my grandma and making spaghetti for the first time for my friends. That was this something that I love to do, but photography is a different, you know, being able to stop a moment forever. I feel like I've always been a photographer because I've always been able to see moments happening. Just now, I have a camera, and so I'm able to stop those moments that I see and then able to share them with people. So it's there is a love that is equal in both sides, because when you feed people and you chef, everyone is like, man, I love the food, I love the, you know, but you're bringing people together. On the other side, when you stop a moment for someone, you're stopping that moment forever. And so being able to have both is just really one of my favorites. It's hard to choose, you know.
So Steve, how have you been navigating through the COVID?
You know, COVID's been a lot harder for the silent shooter. It's been quite great for Chef Metoyer because restaurants closed down. People still wanted to have that restaurant experience, and so when I come in as Chef Metoyer, that's what they get. And so we bring the quality of restaurant dining right to their home, and so that in itself has been a huge blessing. So it's really allowed me to navigate through COVID and not have some of the hard times that some of our other counterparts and colleagues have had because of industry being shut down and not being able to, you know, have the work that they were consistently having before. And so being it such that I've shot some people and that they know that I'm a chef now, being able to combine the two have been special because they brought me in to do chef work instead of bringing me in to do photography. So it's really been a blessing in that sense. You know, I watched a lot of people struggle through COVID, and but you know, with God's grace, you know, they pulled through just like everyone else. And so I've been fortunate. Like I said, we didn't hit those hard moments and get stuck. A lot of moments, a lot of people were really stuck for a long time, and I just feel like, you know, like I said, with God's grace, we really were covered, and we had a lot of moments where we didn't have to think about where meals were coming, where our rent was coming from, and things were going to be paid. You know, we really were able to do very well during that time.
When you're out doing your philanthropic work,
Philanthropy, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you take pictures as well?
I don't. You know, I don't publicize as much the photography side when we're doing, you know, homeless activism work. I try to respect the nature of the person and their situation. I've taken a few photographs before, but I hardly ever use them. There's actually an interesting photo that I have. I'll have to send it to you, but it's I was out at an encampment on Venice, and this was early on in photography, so I'm taking pictures and stuff, and I'm thinking, and I turn, and there's this old guy sitting there, and he's looking at me, and he's staring at me, man. I mean, he's not happy at all, you know, and he turns, and he just, but I got that's the picture. And then I looked at it later and thought about it, and I never brought my camera again, because what I realized is I wasn't even thinking about what it feels like for them, for me to be taking photographs of what they're going through, because I'm trying to show what I'm doing. And I just stopped, and that was several years ago. But now, you know, when I was recently in Dallas, we did something more than just feed the homeless. We removed a homeless person from the streets, and we are currently actively in the process of still helping to get him set up. And so we did document that one, because for our charity, we wanted to show people that it wasn't just something we were doing, but something they could do. And so you'll see we have some more coming out on that to show everyone where we're at now and where we're headed. We just moved into another location, so it's coming along.
What do you think some of your more major setbacks in photography have been?
You know, I think a similar setback for everyone is learning what to charge and how to charge. You know, when you start off new, you want to do so much for people, then people get used to you doing stuff for them, and then it's like, how do you transition from,
Hey man,
I'm
you got
growing,
paid now.
right, into I need some money for this, you know?
Right.
And so there's a photographer here in LA, and you know, because we're friends with the same one, there's Sham.
Shots by Sham.
And what I
Shout
learned
out
from
Sham.
Shots by Sham was not just how humble to be, but he was doing my chef photos for me. And he came over, we had 2 hours, he did all these great photos, and he sent it to me on Dropbox. And I'm looking at the photos later, and you know, I didn't understand how Dropbox worked as well. So I'm looking at the photos, they were grainy, and I'm like, this ain't Sham's work, this is terrible, you know? He never asked me for no money, he was just, you know, helping me out. And I was like, man, I can't get these photos to come clear, man, what am I doing wrong? And this is like 3 weeks later. He says, save it to your device, and then tell me what happened. So I saved it to the device. Man, it was the most crispy pictures ever. Well, I shot him $300 like it was nothing, you know? But what I learned in that moment was that it wasn't about the money to him. And as big as a photographer as he's grown to be, his friendship was more important. And so he never asked for any money. He didn't care about that. He just knew I needed quality photos, and he helped me do it. And that's when it triggered that I don't have to be one type. I just need to know I'm going to keep working, and the people who see that are going to want to compensate that. And so I took the back seat with the compensation in photography because of the chef work that I was getting, and focused more on just being that. And it's starting to work well.
Yeah, well, first off, shout out Sham. You know, me and Sham don't go. We actually started kind of around the same time when we both came to LA. And you know, it's like you said, it's beautiful to see. You know what I'm saying, where he's grown up. And I think he's in Miami right now.
Yeah,
Jason Lee.
yeah, he's in,
exactly.
yeah.
So, you know, yeah, just deciding what to charge. Okay, so then once you started charging, I know we briefly talked about the Grammys and the Oscars and all that stuff, but outside of that, what do you think your biggest like major accomplishment, either, you know what I'm saying, just personally was for photography?
Gosh, the biggest accomplishment. Well, I I mean, it's kind of hard to compare anything other than being nominated for an Oscar. So I guess, in a sense, in a team, that was a huge accomplishment because we were all part of that. But you're part of that team, so that becomes an accomplishment. You know, but I think really was just it was a moment that I had with Kobe Bryant that I can't put a dollar figure on. That, in my personal opinion, felt like one of the greatest accomplishments because we were very close to doing some work prior to you know, the tragedy that we experienced as a world. But we were really, really close to something. So that was.
We can stop right there. First off, you met the Kobe Bryant as a LA native.
As an LA native, yes.
You know, so
the Mamba. You know, but I didn't meet Kobe Bryant, the basketball player.
right.
I met Kobe Bryant, the father. My daughter plays volleyball, and his daughter also plays volleyball, and they met in the playoffs.
Okay.
And so here he is at the game, like all the rest of us, just enjoying his daughter play. And it just so happens that another Hall of Famer by the name of Terrell Owens, his daughter played on
Yeah, I think he played
my daughter's team. So they played. Yeah, it's pretty good in the NFL. And so Terrell's daughter and my daughter played on the same team. So here we are at the game. I'm only guy with the camera. And in comes Kobe, and sitting up in the stands, and Terrell's sitting down below. And all of a sudden he yells down, you know, T.O. Turns around, he looks up and sees Kobe, and he gets up to go, you know, say hello to him. And, you know, I'm trying to be cool, because I want to be obvious. So, you know, me being the silent shooter, start snapping some shots, you know. And I got this great photograph of the two of them just having a dad moment. And so I'm like, how am I going to get him this photograph? You know, I was a little bit bold. So when he was talking to T.O., I just went up and said, what's up to T.O.? And then I was like, you know, I have to come up and say hello. Obviously, he was talking to the team father. I thought it was all good.
Right.
And he laughed. He said, man, what's your name? And we sat, talked for about 10 minutes. He asked about my daughter. He said, man, she's playing really well. Like, I mean, he was just this, outside of what you would think he was none of that. He was calm, cool, friendly, just inviting. He asked me my name probably like 6 times because I was like a little kid. I just kept blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, wait, my name's Stephen. I'm sorry. And then, you know, he talked to the girls after the game and stuff like that. So, you know, it was this cool moment. I'm like, I'll never see this guy again. Who knows, you know? And lo and behold, I was managing a restaurant in the area, a corporate restaurant that I used to manage. And I come in the next day, my GM, and I'm like, man, I got this cool picture of Kobe Bryant and T.O. and this and that. And he said, oh, that's cool. He's going to be here tomorrow. Well, what do you mean he's going to be here tomorrow? He said, yeah, he's doing a book signing at Barnes & Noble downstairs, so he's going to be in the area tomorrow. I'm like, no way. So I'm like, how can I get him to be able to see this photograph? And so I went into Ocean 11 mode the next morning, and I'm like recon, I'm asking the security, how they gonna do this, how they gonna do this. So since they all knew who I was, the security guard, finally I got to one of them, he says, oh yeah, no, they're gonna do this thing over at Nike, he's gonna release his shoe, and then they're gonna bring him over to Barnes & Noble. I said, well, how you gonna get him from Nike to Barnes & Noble? You can't walk him through the quad, it's gonna be a mass hysteria. And he goes, oh no, we're gonna put him in an SUV and pull him around and bring him in through the back way where the common alley is for the restaurant. And I laughed because I was like, that's our spot.
Right.
So I can go hang out down there and nobody can kick me out. And that's what I did. I went and hung out and waited. And then they pulled the SUV in. He got out of the SUV and he's walking with his security and the people. And I had the picture queued up on my phone. And so I waited. He got just like close enough to me, and I looked and I go, I said, man, we got to stop meeting like this, brother. And he turns, he goes, what are you doing here? Stops everything, comes over, gives me a big old hug. And I said, oh, man, it's your restaurant. I heard you was going to be in the neighborhoods. I just wanted to say what's up, you know. And he laughed, and we talked for a second. I said, man, I got this great shot of UNTO last night. I had to show you. And I pulled the phone out, and I showed him. And he looked at me, he goes, Rita, get this picture. So Rita's his assistant. So I stop and give her the information, and he, you know, I got to go in. I'd love to talk to you more, but I got to go in. I said, man, do your thing. You know, we'll catch up later. And next thing you know, Rita takes my info. I send her the picture. Never hear from him again.
Right.
So here I am, Oscar night. I'm with Gatsby Randolph, who I had met at a Grammy party. And I'm doing photography for him. And almost get my camera taken from the security because Valona had me out on the red carpet when I wasn't supposed to. And I'm inside, I'm standing there, they're going by with the In-N-Out burgers. I grabbed an In-N-Out burger, I'm laughing, and I'm talking to Sean, one of the other guys who's in the movie. And all of a sudden I look up, and who's coming from behind the wall? Kobe and Vanessa. And I looked up again, and he starts walking towards me, and I look at him, and I go, brother, we really got to stop meeting like this, man. And he falls out laughing. Man, what the hell are you doing here? I said, man, I'm everywhere. Don't worry about it. And gives me another big hug. We laughed for a few minutes, and I said, you know, what I really wanted to do is, outside of the picture that I took of you in TO, I've been wanting to get that to you. But I really have your next Oscar. And his eyes just blew up like that. A friend of mine wrote this script that was perfect for Granity, which was his production company that he started for minorities, and to bring them into the light and to help them. And so he says, really? And I said, yeah, so I'd love to set up a time when we could sit down and I can, you know, show you what I'm talking about. And he said, email Rita and tell her I said to set it up, and that you talk to me here at Vanity Fair tonight, and that we need to get it put together. And so that was the last time we actually spoke. And then
February 2019.
You know, that was the 2019. And then she still didn't respond to the email. She never emailed me back. And so we finally, Who is Gatsby Randolph is coming out, and we're looking for people to invest in the movie. And we sent one more press release over to them, and Rita responded just like that. And the only thing was, he was going to China with the NBA that week, so he couldn't come to the screening that we were having. But that was our moment. It was right before. And then, you know, that January, unfortunately, the next year, you know,
Passed
we all
away.
know what happened.
Yeah.
So that's the Kobe that I got to meet. And so if there's a shining moment and an accolade and a trophy, I can't put all of that in a trophy, but to have that moment and be able to not just meet him in the basketball world, but to meet the man who he had become over all these years, I felt very, I feel very grateful that I had to have that kind of a moment with him.
Nah, bro, that's up there. Like,
So, yeah.
that's up there.
So that's pretty high up.
Kobe the dad,
Yeah. Kobe the father, and
Kobe
then,
the celebrity,
all
all in different aspects of yourself too.
right,
All accumulated together from a photograph.
all from one picture.
So if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Man, I'm just saying, have your camera and a backup battery. Make sure.
So what's in the bag for you?
Let's see. For me, I'm a Sony shooter.
Okay.
I still got my little A6300. I haven't upgraded yet, but I'm thinking about it. But it does work. And I just added a film camera, a 50 millimeter Canon. So I've been shooting film, black and white film, the past year. I was getting a little better at it.
Ever since about the rain shoot, right?
Yeah.
That's about the first time you had got it?
Yeah, that's it. I actually was doing the wish party It was for Drake's manager, and I was shooting the red carpet for that. So that was the first time I broke out my film camera. And I got this incredible shot of Ty Lepler. Ty Lepler?
Yeah.
He's on, what is that show that he's on that everybody fell in love? It's about the strip club. And it's been
P-Valley.
P-Valley, that's it. The security guard, Diamond. That's it. Diamond is the security guard. Anyway, he does music with one of my friends, Austin. And so Austin produced his album. And so they came to the event. But I got this great shot of them on the red carpet with the film camera. And then another gentleman in the film industry that people know, paper film. I know him as Jeremiah, but he's like my counterpart for who is Gatsby Randolph.
Okay.
But he's an incredible videographer. I've learned so much from him. But I got this great shot of him that night too, because he's getting ready to come out with his album. He's doing some music, so it's going to be interesting.
Ain't that
He's a
something?
rock star.
Us photographers and videographers, we never really get good shots of ourselves.
Man.
Unless another photographer is aware to, hey, let me get
Who
this
it
brother
is.
this
You
shot.
got to get the people. So that's why, like, I've been wanting to go out with Arnold Turner
AT.
and just be his behind-the-scenes guy. And so I'm supposed to talk to him about that. But I would go with him to anything and just capture him, capturing all the celebrities, and have a journal of his work, but from behind him. That's one of the things that I want to do. So that's something on my list.
Arnold's amazing. Good friend.
He's
good
incredible.
mentor.
Yeah.
Dope guy.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, man, bro, I thank you for your time, man. You know, we going to have to have you back on and get some more stories.
Oh, man, we'll give you all of them, man. You get the exclusive stories, man.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, bro.
I appreciate it, man. And this Respect the Shooter, I've always respected your work,
Man.
respected you as a person, and I just thank you for coming and chilling with me today.
Definitely. Big time respect the shooter. Always respect the shooter.
All right,
That's it,
man.
my brother. Appreciate you.